and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. Have a couple of quick announcements for you right at the top. We have New York City Health Innovation Week coming up this month. Can't believe it's already May, but that is coming up very, very soon. Tickets are available in the chat. We also have our AARP challenge coming up as well. The applications are officially open. And we also have our new Women's Founder an investor meetup at Venture Starters. It's going to be a pitch and networking virtual session, so make sure that you join for that today as well. With that, would like to introduce today's guest, HTILAB's very own Ansley Bowen, who is the Community Development Manager. She is the mastermind behind a lot of the events that you see at HTILAB, including Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. As you know, the chat and the Q&A feature are always open for your questions. I will make sure that we get to them in time during our conversation today. So hi, Ansley. So excited to have you on the other side of these conversations.
Hi, Nina. I know it is so exciting to kind of, flip the script a little bit here. So thanks so much for talking to me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think maybe a great way to kind of kick off the conversation is that if you could share with us, Ansley, a little bit more about your background. Would love if we could just learn a little bit more about who you are and kind of your overall introduction.
Yeah, of course. So, as Nina had said, I'm the community development manager at HTILAB. So I help oversee a lot of the different events that occur at HTILAB, whether it's Women's Health Tech Wednesday, our Digital Health Symposium, or our biannual summit coming up. I work, really closely with speaker recruitment, discussion content development, and just kind of all the logistics and setup of the variety of different events that we have. Kind of a fun fact about myself is before I started my career, my only identity was really an athlete. I was a softball player. I played all the way up until college as a student athlete. And so, before I, kind of left that part of my life, it was really my main identity was being an athlete. I graduated, from College of Coastal Georgia down by the beach. So it was an amazing experience with my bachelor's in health science. I took a 5-day break and then immediately jumped into my master's program, in my master's of public health program at Tulane University in New Orleans. And so I went right through it, straight into the program, and it was definitely fun and fast paced. And then actually during my last semester of my program, I did a Delphi internship with HTILAB, the Developing Emerging Leaders in Public Health Initiatives. And I love doing the internship with HTILAB. And as soon as I graduated for that, I had the pleasure of continuing to work with them. So that's a kind of a quick background introduction on myself.
That is amazing. Wow. So it really was the first introduction and then the rest was history with HTILAB.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
That's amazing. I'm so curious, what kind of motivated you to pursue a Master of Public Health?
Yeah, so this question here, I feel like a lot of people, the guests that we have on our programs and stuff, we kind of ask them, like, what are you doing while you're doing? Like, why did you pursue what you wanted to pursue? And a lot of them kind of say, like, I had this kind of set idea in my mind, and then, either life circumstances or I kind of realized that, it wasn't for me. And I'm actually no different. My entire high school, all the way up until my last semester of undergraduate, I was 100% set on pursuing my doctorate in physical therapy. I had a lot of injuries just being an athlete all my life, and physical therapy was a huge part of it. And I wanted to be able to have that health aspect, that athletic experience, and really be able to help people recover from injuries. I had another great opportunity to do an internship at a local clinic, and I quickly realized that physical therapy was not for me. It wasn't something that I really wanted to pursue. So with 3 months left until I graduated, I was like, what am I going to do? I had this plan, my whole life. And I kind of had to take a step back and realize, what was I passionate about? I actually loved school. I loved doing research. I loved doing writing. I loved doing communication projects. And so combining that with, my passion for health and making a difference in people's lives, public health was a very clear path for me to take. And so I kind of pursued that. I went down that route. I applied, and I haven't looked back.
That is incredible. And sometimes it really does just take a little bit of trial and error to realize that what you think you wanted maybe in theory is definitely not for you, and that there's another path that's maybe even better. So I definitely love that. And honestly, wholeheartedly resonate with it. I'm also so curious. I know that, we see really when we're interviewing all of these amazing leaders, how, different experiences, education, how all of that kind of comes together to inform career paths and kind of the next steps. And I'm so curious for you too, like, I would imagine being able to have your master's in public health has really informed even the work that you do right now.
Yeah.
Just kind of curious, is that kind of what you see? Like, does having your MPH inform a lot of the work that you do as a community development manager?
Absolutely. So, my background in public health informs a lot of my approaches to event management, whether that's by, emphasizing the importance of evidence-based strategies, community engagement, and inclusivity. So I really try to prioritize creating events that are accessible, informative, and most importantly, empowering for all of our attendees, especially with a particular focus on addressing those diverse health needs of women. My public health degree has given me that background knowledge on all the different parts of the healthcare ecosystem. For example, before embarking on my master's of public health, I had no idea what a payer was. I had no idea what pharmaceutical companies specialized in. And so it really helped me kind of round out my education with that. It shifted my mindset to make sure that evidence and education are actually at the forethought of every decision and every event.
That's amazing. And I think on that note, I mean, it's incredible because the events that you put together are so delightful and amazing. And just to see that there's so much intention behind that, I think is definitely not surprising, but also so amazing. And I think on that note, would love if you could kind of walk us through or describe a successful event that you organize. I know that there are many, but would love if you can kind of like give us in real time or in real life example.
Well, I have to say Women's Health Tech Wednesday, of course, right? It's my favorite time of the week. I love doing this work. I think it's extremely successful just in terms of where it's based in. It's based on helping meet, these unaddressed needs of women's health, helping to give a platform for leaders to be able to share their education, to share their expertise. So I have to say, of course, Women's Health Tech Wednesday is one of my most favorite and successful events. I'm a little biased, but another event that we actually do that, Nina, you were also a part of, is our digital health symposiums. And so last month in April, we focused very, very heavily on women's health. And it's so amazing to be able to talk to all these different people within the healthcare ecosystem. Like I said, you have the payers, you have the providers, you have the startups, the investors. All of these people work together to be able to create actual solutions to these unmet needs. And just being able to connect them with the audience members, to be able to give them that platform, to be able to, I learned information that I didn't even know. We had anywhere from doulas to OBGYNs to, like I said, investors. And so I think that Women's Health Tech Wednesday and anything we focus specifically on women's health in our other events is a huge success in promoting women's health.
That's amazing. And exactly to your point, Ansley, I love that a lot of the events that you kind of organize, that HTILAB organizes, really does focus on the collective, on the ecosystem that kind of speaks within women's health, but obviously healthcare more broadly. And something that you mentioned that I think is so interesting to touch on really is like the awareness and the education piece. So I'm really curious. I would imagine that that's something that's also very thoughtful and intentionally designed, but how do you incorporate the health promotion, the education, some of those aspects into the event planning process?
Absolutely. I try to integrate health promotion education into the event planning process by collaborating with experts within women's health, incorporating informative topics in each of these sessions, providing resources for the audience to be able to connect with these guests. Education and evidence-based approaches are truly the foundation of event planning at HTILAB. And it's so important for me to just be able to make sure that I use all the resources that I am so blessed to have to be able to give those resources to all of our audience members. So definitely education and health promotion are completely like the basis of what I try to do when I'm setting up all of these events.
100. I love that. I love that it seems to be such like a core focus of the work. That's amazing. As I can only imagine, when it comes to planning events in general, but definitely something like this where there's like in-person components, virtual components, all of that fun stuff that, things don't always go according to plan. So would love if you could share with us, what are some examples of challenges that you faced when kind of organizing women's health related events or just healthcare related events, and maybe some ways that you've addressed it so that we can learn too?
Yeah, so I want to disclaim that those challenges and technical difficulties occur not just from the women's health events. It occurs in all events, like you said, that you do. And a lot of our events are virtual, and so you have that technical component. And let me tell you, Teams and Zoom, sometimes they show up and they're like, we're not working today. And so you kind of have to adapt to that. Wi-Fi, for example, Wi-Fi sometimes isn't stable. Wi-Fi doesn't, feel like coming into work today either. So there's so many different aspects that when you're doing predominantly virtual events that you kind of have to be aware of and try and work around. There's a ton of technical difficulties that occur behind the scenes. And that's why it's so important to have a strong team with you so we can all kind of work together. I mean, we have a group chat that we are very like, okay, look, we need to do this, we need to do this happened, like, can you help me here? And kind of don't see that, or hopefully you don't see that, as an audience member. And so there's a lot of stuff that you just kind of have to adapt to. And then in terms of like in-person events and stuff, a lot of the speakers that we recruit are super, super busy and successful individuals. And a lot of their schedules are kind of hard to be able to fit them in a time slot. And so you kind of have to, it's kind of like a puzzle piece a little bit. They give you certain times, you have other people that are giving you certain times. When you're working with 20 speakers or more, sometimes it can be hard to make sure that you're getting their schedules and accommodating them. So it's a puzzle, it's a challenge. And I think that's part of the reason I keep coming back is because I love it. It's like a puzzle piece and I'm determined to solve it. So those are just a few challenges, that can occur with all these different events. It's a very, it changes constantly. You have to be very, very adaptable when you're organizing events.
I can imagine like that and flexibility. And I love that you really highlight how it kind of does sometimes take a village. It really is like this kind of collaborative team approach. So I think that's really important. Wanted to kind of ask you too, I mean, there's so much work that you do when you kind of are really just so heavily involved in the women's health space as you're kind of pulling together these really meaningful events. And I'm kind of curious too, like leveraging your like public health background as well, kind of really the role of advocacy that I think as, leaders, as folks in the women's health space, we know very well. But just kind of curious how you leverage kind of your advocacy for women's health, just in like the day-to-day of your work, kind of the ins and outs of just life at HTILAB.
I try to integrate advocacy for women's health into my daily work by actively seeking opportunities to raise awareness, whether that's letting others know about the events such as Women's Health Tech Wednesday, or like you mentioned earlier, the Women's Founders Pitch by Venture Starters. I love being able to support other women and women's health solutions, whether that's, social platforms. LinkedIn is a huge one. So many people post either their accomplishments or their upcoming events that they have. And so, it doesn't take a lot of effort to either like a post or repost it and be able to bring your audience into their audience. And so I think that just by doing simple things like that, I can really be an advocate in just my day-to-day life. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. And that's what I love about it. I mean, you don't have to be an expert in women's health to be able to raise awareness. You don't have to be an expert to be an advocate. And a lot of our guests have mentioned this before. I mean, your voice is so impactful in so many ways. And, if one or two more people just kind of use their voice, use their platforms, it makes such a big impact that's almost sometimes it's not even measurable. And you don't have to be this, specialized leader within this to be able to really be an advocate in your day-to-day life. So I love this question. And I love that I'm able to, literally just as simple as a like or a repost can potentially broaden, the audience for women's health solutions.
I love that. And I definitely am now going to be so much more mindful and like really make it a point to do that myself. Because I so agree with you. It really is like those little things that are implemented that have such big impact. And I think that I just love how you really are just trying to think about it as like, what are just some meaningful things that I personally can do that to kind of broaden the horizons. I think that's so amazing. I love that. I'm definitely like, I feel like I do like and repost, but now I'm going to be so much more mindful about it because that's such a great, easy thing to do.
Absolutely. It takes like 2 seconds to just do that. And it can make a tremendous difference. Yeah.
100%. I love that. And also kind of curious too, I mean, some of the things that you spoke about is really around like the role of collaboration. And I think you demonstrated that already by being able to share the message of folks through collaboration. But also curious too, like how does HTILAB kind of collaborate with these, various public health organizations, healthcare professionals, all of those things to really enhance like the impact and the quality of the events that you put on?
I mean, we collaborate closely with public health organizations and healthcare professionals to help leverage their expertise. So together, we really try to amplify our impact and reach a broader audience with valuable health information and services. It's also important to collaborate with other leaders within public health and healthcare so that the event is properly addressing crucial issues within women's health. By bringing a variety of all these experts together, it helps the events to, number one, be well-rounded, but also educational, and also address, a variety of topics under women's health. Similar to what I kind of touched on before, is, we can't do it alone. And so if we all work together with all of the different partners and all the different players in this healthcare ecosystem, if we work together, that's when we'll see the most impact. So, I love to reach out to a variety of different organizations. I love to see what they're doing within women's health or what they're doing within a certain topic of the event that we're, going to have. So I like to just make sure that everything is super, super well-rounded, not just for our audience, but also for those organizations as well, to be able to collaborate with us, to be able to have a platform. So everyone is just, again, kind of boils down to that awareness and advocacy aspect.
I love that. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think that is like such a key component to really having like diversity too. And
Yes.
the types of speakers that we have for all of these things. And now I'm kind of really interested to get your take. I think as all of us on the call that are, participants in HTILAB events, in just larger community events, we definitely can see the value. But I'm kind of curious from your perspective as someone that is putting on a lot of these events, what role do you kind of believe that, events, community management, all of those types of things really do to impact women's health issues? Like, I'm just really want to get like your particular perspective on it.
Yeah, events play a crucial role in raising awareness about women's health issues by providing platforms for education, dialogue, advocacy. They have the power to inspire positive behavior change, empower individuals to take control of their health, and mobilize communities to actually address these health disparities. From a personal experience, I've learned so much about women's health through the variety of guests that we have on our program. There's so many aspects of women's health, right? We have reproductive health, we have maternal health, menopause, the list goes on. And so I think that women's health is first off a topic that is not talked about enough. And I think that, it's just beautiful that if one person could tune in weekly and learn something or discover a topic or a solution that may be very personal for them, it sparks impact, it sparks passion. And so that I love that HTILAB offers events like, the Women's Health Tech Wednesday and the Symposium worldwide. So anyone in the world can join. And not only that, but all of our virtual events are completely free. So it brings resources directly to our audience members. You don't have to pay. You can literally just hop online to a Zoom call. And like I said, if it just affects one person, if one person is impacted by this, then we are doing our job and raising awareness and promoting that positive behavior change.
I absolutely love that. And I once again, I love that you are thinking both like broadly, collectively, but also to the individual and making it super meaningful for them too. So that definitely shows in all of the events that you put on, but I love that is something that is so top of mind for you. And I'm kind of really curious too, like for you and for the team, how do you kind of measure success? Like what are some of the metrics that you use for kind of event planning and management?
I'm going to answer this in two parts. So the first part is, we measure success of the event in terms of its impact by assessing attendee feedback. This is known as our Net Promoter Score, also NPS. And so how we kind of do this is we have surveys at the end of our symposiums and in events, and it's literally on a 1 to 10 scale. How satisfied are you with this HTILAB event? How likely are you to return? How likely are you to refer this to someone else? And so we take that data and we measure it based on a percentage, and that kind of gives us an understanding of how successful this event was in terms of being impactful and being something that the audience wants to see. We also measure through metrics such as attendee rates, social media engagements, and like I said, those post-event surveys. So that's really how we gather that kind of data. But the second part of my answer to this question is kind of what I mentioned a little bit before, is that sometimes impact can be measured. It can't be measured because sometimes impact is internal. And so whether or not someone does the survey, whether or not someone engages with our social media posts, if they tune on to our programs and they either are connected with a resource they didn't know before, they're connected with an individual that is going to help them, they learned about something that is very personal to them, then that is so impactful, and that automatically makes a success in my books. But it's hard to measure that because it's internal, but I like to believe that people are truly impacted in a way that we can't measure sometimes.
Definitely. Oh, I love that. That's very, very true. And so this is definitely a good note that, those feedback surveys are definitely like, they are going somewhere. I think sometimes when you see those, you're like, is that actually someone actually looking at
Oh,
it? But you definitely are. So
yes, please do fill out the surveys at the end of it. It really does help us to make sure that, it's enjoyable and a great experience for you. So please do.
that's amazing. I love it. And I'm also kind of curious too. I mean, this, like, you are like, exactly what's going on within HitLab and all these organizations. Are there any events, anything that's kind of new and happening that you want to tell us? Like, you're like the megaphone for all things HitLab. So is there anything cool and new that's happening in terms of like events coming up?
Yes, as you mentioned earlier, we have our New York City Health Innovation Week coming up. Actually, on Monday, it's going to be at the Microsoft Tech Center in Times Square. And registration for tickets actually ends tonight. So I encourage all of y'all to check out our website, hitlab.org/summit, to see and get your tickets. But I'm so excited for this event coming up. I'm sure all of y'all have heard of healthcare conferences like JP Morgan or HIMSS or Vive. And where are they located? Nowhere near New York City, right? And New York City is honestly a great hub for so many healthcare, so many digital health, so many public health things that are occurring on a daily basis. And so our goal with this is to bring this big, huge event of networking, of collaboration, of panels discussions, of board dinners, of just networking, to be able to bring that to the hub in New York City. So New York City Health Innovation Week is occurring. Part of that is our biannual summit that we host. It's going to be on May 6th through the 8th. It's going to be 3 days of fireside chats, presentations, tech demos. And it's just, I'm so excited to be a part of that. I'm also excited because, as I'm not sure if all of y'all know, I'm actually located in Athens, Georgia. And so I've never met a lot of the people that I work with on a daily basis in person. So I'm super excited to meet all of the HitLab staff and all of the other partners and every one of the great people that I work with on a daily basis via email. And it's really great because we have so many partners that, around the New York City health ecosystem that are coming together with us to make this event happen. So I'm glad you asked that question because I can't express how excited I am for this.
That's amazing. It's so funny. It is like remote work definitely does, like, you feel like someone so much just like virtually. But it will be really cool to kind of see everyone in person. And I like too that there's really a concentrated effort to kind of, and I think it's, you speak to this all the time around accessibility and the fact that you and the HitLab team are looking to do something for a specific community, for the local community, I think is
Absolutely.
really, empowering. I love that. As you know, during Women's Health Tech Wednesdays, a lot of the amazing conversations that we have, a lot of the folks really speak to kind of their mentors, to kind of people in the past that have really like helped shepherd them and guide them, that they can now kind of go forth and even give us wisdom. But kind of curious to get your take on, the mentors, people in your life that have really, shaped, whether it's the transition from public health to now community management, or just your general like professional career. Do you kind of have any mentors that have kind of done that for you?
Well, specifically when we're talking about my mentor for transitioning from public health to event management, I have to shout out Jerry Antamano. So many people love Jerry. Everybody loves Jerry. A lot of people know Jerry who've worked with the HitLab team. Jerry really helped me in terms of mentoring me with showing me the ropes. There's a lot of stuff that I had no idea about when I came into the more side, the event side of things. I had to learn about what does it look like to recruit speakers? What does it look like to schedule? What does it look like to have time management with this kind of stuff? And Jerry really showed me the ropes of everything, but at the same time also let me take the initiative on my own, and really let me kind of run with that. And so Jerry is an amazing coworker, and he was truly an amazing mentor for me. So I have to shout out Jerry for that.
We love Jerry. Awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you, Ansley. And you just mentioned this too, kind of around like speaker recruitment. I'm, really interested to hear a little bit more. I know that, and you've also mentioned this too around like the diversity of speakers and really making that like be very intentional. So really wanted to learn more around how do you kind of go about recruiting speakers? How do you ensure that the speakers and the content that you're kind of framing up really does reflect the diversity of like the broader women's health experience?
That's super important, right? It's super important. So we ensure that the speakers and the content at our events really help hopefully reflect the diversity of women's experiences and their health needs by actively seeking out diverse voices, perspectives, and expertise. So we really try to prioritize inclusivity and representation in our programming to hopefully ensure that, all the attendees feel seen, heard, and value. And again, kind of going back to those surveys and stuff, like that's a great way for you to let me know, like, hey, like, I don't know if I felt like this properly addressed my issue, or I don't know that if, you're perhaps covering a broader range, or perhaps they're like, this is great, continue to do this. So, it's a collaboration from listening to our audience, and as well as making sure that I'm doing, my job correctly by recruiting and actively seeking out those diverse voices and perspectives.
I love that. Wanted to also ask you, I would imagine, and I'm just also realizing this too, Ansley, that you were at HTILAB during COVID when I would imagine events, like everything just fully went virtual, like very, very quickly, like all of that is crazy. But I can only imagine with all of the events that you're kind of putting on, like that is very taxing, very time consuming work. So I think a lot of us would be very interested to know, do you have any self-care strategies, things to do that kind of prevent that burnout where you're kind of constantly having to really not only do the work, but also show up as well. I personally would want to know because I would love to learn from you when it comes to this.
Well, I think I could learn a lot from you as well, Nina, but with someone from a super type A personality, I mean, I feel like I often have to have a sense of control over the situation. And let me tell you, events management, no, it has a mind of its own, right? A lot of changes can occur, like we talked, technical difficulties, scheduling changes. So I have to be able to adapt and almost kind of let myself go with the flow. And that's very hard for me to do. And so I've learned that it's okay to not be in control at all times. And it's okay to step back, to take a deep breath, and then come back, circle back to it. Because oftentimes when I do that, and instead of trying to immediately jump in, tackle it head on, if I just kind of, step back a little bit and come back to it, the solution was right there. I just couldn't see it because I was too worried about, all the changes that occurred. So as long as I put my best effort forward, things always work out in the end. And sometimes it's way easier said than done, but sometimes it's just not always worth stressing about. And so I need to remind myself that more sometimes. But in terms of also having, that self-care aspect and preventing that burnout, work-life balance is huge. And so what I like to do is I have to have something to look forward to. So whether it's, walking my dog, going on a hike, planning an event with friends, doing something on the weekend, if it gives me something to look forward to, it's so much easier for me to feel like I have that balance. Because, sometimes, when you get off work and you're like, well, what do? I don't have anything planned. And so then work can kind of bleed in a little bit into your personal life. And so as long as you have things to look forward to, and things that you truly love to do outside of work, then I think you can better have that work-life balance.
I love that. It's funny, I realize we're out of time and my favorite question to ask is words of advice, but I think you just gave us so much just now unintentionally. So I feel like that was so helpful. Thank you so much, Ansley, for taking the time to come on to this side of the screen to chat with me. It is always such a pleasure to work with you, and also now to learn more about all the amazing work that you do kind of behind the scenes to make all of these amazing events come to life.
Well, thank you, Nina. It was truly a pleasure to speak with you, and thanks everyone for having me on today.
Go, Ansley.